Good morning. The wheels do indeed keep turning here at Lovebabz Lovetalk on 103.5 WNHH. Live streaming on the New Haven Independent and on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. We are everywhere. So this morning I'm delighted because we just left Black History Month. We are rolling into Women's History Month. And in studio with me is Constance Royster, Ms. Royster. And she is the niece of Constance Baker Motley. And there will be a screening of the trials of Constance Baker Motley at the New Haven Museum on March 3rd and March 6th. And so she's here today to talk about the life and legacy of our very own Constance Baker Motley, and talk a little bit about your own civil rights activism here and where and about and abroad and everything. So welcome, Ms. Royster.
Thank you very much.
It is nice to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
So tell me about this film.
Well, I love the way you said our own Constance Baker Motley, because New Haven is her home, and she always felt that this was home.
Mm-hmm.
So our own being New Haven's own and this community's own Constance Baker Motley is very important for your listeners and viewers to understand.
I take it you're named after her.
I am. I am. She and my mother were very close. In fact, they
were sisters?
They were sisters.
Mm-hmm.
They were like Irish twins, as they say. They were like 18 months apart.
Ooh.
And so they grew up together,
mm-hmm.
Went to school. They were in the same class together.
And there was 12 of them.
That's right. Originally, there were 12. A couple did die in childbirth or
mm-hmm.
very young. Those were very difficult times in the early 1900s. And they were, when I was growing up, 8 of them, including my mother and my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew 8 of the siblings, and
Okay.
even that was a large
That's a
family,
lot.
right?
Yes.
There are there's a very strong first cousin generation,
mm-hmm.
large first cousin generation, and we are all very close. Pretty much grew up in New Haven, in and around New Haven, except pretty much for my cousin Joel, her son.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the family gatherings took place here.
Mm-hmm. And you all have Caribbean roots.
Well, yes. My grandmother and my grandfather, Willoughby Alva Baker, my grandfather, and Rachel Huggins Baker, both came from Nevis in the British West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
They immigrated here in the beginning of the 1900s. New Haven was a kind of mecca for many people from Nevis.
Really?
And St. Kitts, yes.
I had no idea.
Yes.
So there is community here.
There is definitely community here. And in fact, my grandmother, it was said, was the welcoming committee for many people who did come from Nevis and St. Kitts.
Mm-hmm.
They came and slept on her sofa to get their feet on the ground and
Okay.
find jobs.
Wow.
Yep, many found jobs at Yale, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
So many of my folks worked in the Yale, mostly in the Yale dining facilities
mm-hmm.
at the time.
So talk a little bit about let me go here. Do you feel like we are losing touch with the legacy and story of Constance Baker Motley?
Well, I think there was a period that we had lost touch. I think part of what's going on right now is that there's a rekindling of interest and knowledge about her. This is partly why it's so important that people see this film.
Mm-hmm.
She is a legacy, an untold part of the civil rights history. She was the only woman lawyer in the NAACP Legal Defense Fund,
Mm-hmm.
and she litigated most of, if not all of, the major university desegregation cases in the South. She was the one that was sent down there to do that. University of Mississippi, University of Georgia.
I know we know so much about Thurgood Marshall.
Yes.
Because there's a whole film about his Connecticut case.
That's right.
And it was a well done film, and I had the screenwriter here talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that somebody will take a stab at doing this for
something
Constance?
like that?
Yeah,
something for the mass market.
Mm-hmm. Because it starts with a document. I mean, it starts with films like this.
Yes, it does.
Right?
It does, and one would hope that would be the next, hopefully, next step.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I think getting the word out about her, I think, started when she did her autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a very big and wonderful celebration of that at Quinnipiac University. And then after she died, there was a symposium about her life, which was one of the best that I think has been done about her. And then there's the first book about her was done by Gary Ford, and that's came out about 2 years ago. It has had it's a university press book called Constance Baker Motley. I think it's called. Actually, I can't remember what it's called right now. But he's taking it around and talking about it. He's spoken to some high school students here in New Haven,
Mm-hmm.
and I think as people take her story out to the world,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm doing, my cousin Joel, her son, is doing with this documentary,
Mm-hmm.
more and more people have the reaction of, what? Never heard of her.
Really?
Yeah.
People
yes.
are saying that? Oh,
In
my
New-
heavens.
In New Haven,
Oh, really?
people don't know her story. And that's what...
Then we are failing our educational system. Because I learned about her in public school when I was a kid.
Well, most of these children here in New Haven don't know about her.
Mm-hmm.
Most children across the United States don't know about her.
Mm-hmm.
And they know about Thurgood Marshall, of course. And they know about many of the men who led, in the civil rights era.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like in much of life, the women's stories go untold.
And we're finding that with films like Hidden Figures,
Exactly.
and all these other sort of gems of and around Black women and the role that we played in the building of this country.
That's right. Exactly.
So, Ms. Royster, you're an attorney in your own right.
I am.
Like famously
I don't know about that.
known
but,
attorney, accomplished, a partner. You went to
yes,
Rutgers. I mean,
yes. I have done my work, but we're not here to talk about me, except to say yes, I've done some things. I was in the first group of women to go to Yale when Yale went co-ed.
Really?
Yes, I was. And I hope I've made my contribution to this community.
And what was that like for you? Because you were a young woman.
I was a young woman.
Very, very young woman.
Yes. We're coming up to a 50th anniversary of
wow.
This year, actually.
So do you get together? Are you all getting together?
We are getting together. There's planning a big celebration.
Oh, I want y'all to come. I want all y'all to come and talk to me.
Big celebration, but you might have to come to us.
Oh, listen. I'll come. Bring my recorder and we'll
Yes.
talk.
Oh, yes. It was a very big deal. It was a.
So what was it like to? So that kind of success, Miss Royster, was that due in fact because of the way y'all were raised? I mean, because there's a lot of success in this family.
Well, isn't that interesting? You should say that. I think that education was the most important thing that it as a value, as a family value. My grandparents were, as I said, raised in the British West Indies. The Brits had a very different attitude towards Black people in the West Indies, in their colonies. They educated them. When my grandmother and grandfather had the equivalent of an 8th grade education, which is much more substantive, was much more substantive than the equivalent here. And that was mandated. And it was mandated that they had a trade. So it wasn't like, you free people and you just let them go on their own. They were educated and trained. So when they came to this country, they were people who could find jobs and believed in the value of education. They didn't have a lot of money. So my aunt, for example, could not go to college because there was no money in the family. But she made a speech, and her speech was heard by a white New Haven philanthropist by the name of Blakesley, and he heard her and said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And she said, "I want to be a lawyer." And he said, "Well, I don't know about a woman being a lawyer, but if that's what you want to do, I will pay for you to go to college and to law school and anything else you want to do."
Wow.
Now, that's a Cinderella story.
Yes.
But that's what led to her being able to break barriers and make tremendous legends of some of the most important other people in the civil rights movement, like Charlene Hunter Galt.
Yes.
Right?
Who was her contemporary,
well,
right?
No. She litigated the case that got Charlene and Hamilton Holmes into the University of Georgia.
Yes.
You see? So, right. This is how you pay it forward.
So did you feel the pressure of having that as your aunt to accomplish?
It's so funny you say that.
Like, you can't just be home sitting on the couch and you got Constance Baker Motley as your aunt out here doing this.
Yes. Well, it's a mixed blessing, isn't it? There's a pride in carrying that name forward. And yes, there was a certain amount of pressure. I mean, I felt for a while that I had to say, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I mean, that's a childhood thing, right?
I'm not going to be a lawyer.
Yes.
And now you're a lawyer.
But it was, it was destined even. And I believe I carried it on.
Oh, listen, I know you did. Listen. So this film is coming.
It's coming.
Her son is going to be.
Her son produced it.
Okay.
And it was directed by a director,
Rick Rogers.
Right?
Yep.
And it's really about her legal victories in her legal life, and not only the cases that she won. Lots of wonderful interviews. Interview with Burden Jordan and Charlene Hunter Galt, but also her time as a state senator, New York State Senator, first African American woman, and as borough president of the city of Manhattan, of the borough of Manhattan, I should say. First African American woman to hold that position. And right through to...
And she was the youth council president here at the
That's correct.
NAACP.
That's correct.
Which
That's
I don't even know who comes after that.
Well, I mean, I think her leadership qualities shown very early.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of what drove her
Mm-hmm.
to be the spokesperson that Mr. Blakesley heard. And he could see something in her
Mm-hmm.
that led him to say, there's something here that we shouldn't just let go. And so he called her down to his office and said, as I said, he said, I'll pay for you.
Mm.
And he didn't just pay for her. He attended her graduation from Columbia Law School. So
So I'm reading this story that she was on her way to Fisk.
Yes.
Like she was going to Fisk to go to school?
Well, that's where she thought, that's where she matriculated at first.
Mm-hmm.
And he paid for that. So he was going to pay for wherever she wanted to go. And so that was her first college entry, right? But she had never encountered that kind of, shall we say, bigotry, separation of the races. Because in New Haven, she lived over there on Day Street and Garden Street, and that was a completely mixed up area of multicultural folks. And so when she was going down, crossing the Mason-Dixon line, and came in contact with, Negroes only,
colored only.
Yeah, colored only.
Yeah.
And
she was like, what is this?
What is going on here? Right. So she was at Fisk only 1 year.
Oh.
And yes. And so then she transferred to NYU. Mm-hmm. And again, that was all paid for by him.
Wow.
Yeah. So
do you still stay in touch with the Blakesley family?
Interesting you should ask me that.
Because they have some stake in her history.
Yes.
And,
right? Yes. Well, that's true. I do know a great niece of Mr. Blakesley.
Oh.
I know her quite well. It turns out we went to junior high school together for a year here out in Woodbridge at Amity.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a family connection, and I was director of development at the Divinity School here at Yale.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is where I retired from a couple of years ago.
You retired?
Just
smart women like you don't retire. What are you doing?
I retired from there.
Oh, okay. And I was like, I know.
I now consult to nonprofits, giving them advice on board governance and fundraising. So I have a whole new thing.
Okay, all right.
I'm not retired.
I know you're not retired.
Yes, his Mr. Blakesley's, next generation of folks have been through the Divinity School as well. So I've known some of them as well. So yes, it's amazing how.
That's a good story right there. Like that story is its own story of two families who are connected.
Many connections. Yes, exactly. There are so many connections between the families here in New Haven.
Because y'all are St. Luke's church people, aren't you?
Absolutely. St. Luke's, that's the family church. My grandmother, in terms of like leadership, this is, I think there's something to the family, it being part of the family DNA. My grandmother, my aunt's mother, was the first woman vestry person in the Episcopal Church in Connecticut.
Really?
Yes.
How'd that happen? Because
leadership. Yeah, we know
even
about the Episcopal Church.
Listen, women weren't in leadership in anybody's church.
Thank you. So it's there's something there. The children saw leadership in action. Even my grandmother's ability to run a household of however number children were in the house at any given time, and to manage all the folks who were coming up from the West Indies. my grandfather as well was, you know, he was a chef, and for much of the time he was a chef at Yale eating clubs and fraternities such as Skull and Bones.
Wow. Oh, he could write a book too.
Yes. He could have, I suppose. Yeah, right. And I think that he was very British, as we all used to say. He was more British than the British, right? Mm-hmm. So very proper, very very stiff in some ways. But I think what I'm saying is that there were ways of doing things and there were ways of not doing things. And it was not a household where children ran all around wild and crazy.
I can imagine.
So, you know, you sat down and you read a book, or you were outside playing in the yard, not in the street, right? And so there were ways of controlling the household that were both gentle but firm. And I think she learned a lot about that. Yeah.
So Lyndon Johnson,
yep,
made her the first African American woman federal judge.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. First.
So talk a little bit about what that meant and what was that like.
I think that was pretty jaw-dropping.
Because people were fighting. They didn't want her to be the judge. It was some Southern folks that were like,
that's right.
Like they launched opposition.
Yes, they did. I think they would have launched opposition to any Black person seeking a position on the federal bench. But she had spent so much time, so many years in the South. She was a known. And of course, we have the issue of sexism, right? A woman, a Black woman, being appointed to the federal bench. But, you know, Lyndon Johnson was a powerful man. He was going to get what he wanted. And eventually he just said, this is what I'm doing. And there is a story that he basically did it without the imprimatur of Bobby Kennedy, who was her state senator, and it should have gone really through Bobby Kennedy. But Lyndon was intent on appointing an African American to that seat on the Southern District of New York.
And then in 1986 and 89?
66.
Yep, but in 82, she became the chief judge.
That's right.
And then the senior judge in 86.
That's right.
I mean, that is amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yes.
So,
and in fact, the United States Courthouse in New York, there was an effort to name that new courthouse after her. And she's such a modest person. She said, no. But they did name the jury assembly room after her. And there is a huge portrait, a beautiful portrait. And in a way that is almost more important, because every person who goes in to serve on a jury
sees her.
And knows that they are in the Constance Baker Motley jury assembly room. And that's that African American woman, judge of this court. You have a duty. She's watching you. I love it.
I love that too. Yeah. I love that too. So the film is just covering her legal life. Is there some personal?
Yeah, there's. Oh yes, there's. You'll see,
because she got married.
Yep. I don't know if you can see pictures.
Well, you can put them up. Put them in front of you.
This is her getting married at St. Luke's Church. That's my Uncle Joel.
In New Haven?
Yes. I'm telling you. Yes. Wasn't she gorgeous?
Yeah. Oh my Lord, that's beautiful.
And this is a photograph of her entering the church. with my grandfather.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Look at that.
Isn't that something?
Yes, it is.
Does he look like he's got? That's my grandfather, and then on the far side is my Uncle Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That's my grandfather and his top hat.
I
Do
love
they
it.
look like the?
Yes.
Didn't I tell you?
Listen, you cannot.
Yes, this is St. Luke's Church. That's right.
That is beautiful.
Yep. So yes, she was married here. She and my mother graduated, as I said, from Hill House High School.
Mm-hmm.
That's a photograph there. That's the two of them. And you can see it on this page. There's one other African American in that high school page. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. And there are people from all over New Haven in this high school graduating class. One other person, a white woman on Orchard Street, and they are living on Day Street. So, the community was very mixed. And what's really interesting is that as a high school, future desire, my aunt, Judge Motley, says, I want to be a lawyer. She became a lawyer. My mother, who never went to college because there was no money, says, I want to be a teacher. It took her 30 years. She became a teacher.
Really?
Yeah. She was
wow,
a nursery
that says
school
something about tenacity
isn't that
and
something?
commitment.
Isn't that something? Yep.
Wow.
But they were they were very close. Yeah, very close. So that's Hill House, and she came back for Hill House reunions. She was
I wish I would have known her.
Pride and joy of their class. I mean, she was, Constance Baker Motley. She was well known amongst her classmates, and I think one of the, if not the most famous of that graduating class.
Oh, I'm
House
sure.
Class of 1939.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did Judge Motley pass?
She passed in I'm going to get this wrong now. 2005, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. She was 84. Yeah.
And she was living where? New York?
Well, that's an interesting point. She lived in New York, but she had for 40 plus years a home in Chester, Connecticut.
I don't even know where Chester, Connecticut is. Like, I don't even know.
So it's
is it still in the family?
No, it was sold a few years after her death,
okay.
and after the death of my uncle. He died a couple of years after she did. But I'll come back to that. So Chester, Connecticut is Deep River. I don't know how. It's on 95 off. I think it's like exit 79 or something like that. Before you get to the malls, the
Danbury Mall.
No, 95.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Toward New London.
Oh,
right.
Essex.
Essex.
I know now.
Okay,
yes,
it's beautiful.
Yes.
Chester is beautiful along the Connecticut River.
Now I got to go look.
Right. Yes. So she had a home there for, as I said, 40 years, and she loved that home. She's researched it. It was a very old colonial, which she dug into it, its history, etc. And she became very much a citizen of that town as well. It's a very small town. That town has since purchased land across the street, the land trust, which she also owned, and it has been designated as a preserve in my aunt's name, and the house and the land are going on to the
preserve.
So
they got to move it across the street.
No, it's going to become part of the Freedom Trail.
Oh. So
right.
Do people live in the house or
yes?
No? People live in the house?
Yes, they bought it. They love it. it's a new owner, and they are very interested in preserving her legacy. So the New Haven house, which is 8 Garden Street. This is 8 Garden Street is on the Freedom Trail.
Is it?
Yes.
I got to get me a Freedom Trail map or something.
It's on the Freedom Trail.
Oh.
And you can go by it. It has a plaque, but it says, on it that it's privately owned and not open to the public.
So you can't just go knock on the door.
No,
and be
you
like,
can't.
Come in.
No, but lots of places you can walk by. You can see
you can walk
the
by,
history
yes.
of important spots along the trail throughout Connecticut.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm very interested in this.
Yes, and the brochures, I think they have them in the corner of the New Haven. I'm
gonna go find. I'm gonna make this my business this summer.
So the folks in Chester have been extremely active in making sure her legacy is alive in Chester.
Really?
Oh yes, they have taken real ownership of this legacy. And they've had a museum exhibit, I don't know if it's permanent or at least semi-permanent, about her life and times. So I think time for New Haven, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, someone told me that there was a street corner in New Haven named for her. I can't find it. Nobody can find the sign.
Really?
Yes. Back in 1972, there was a naming of a senior citizens complex.
Yes.
For her, right?
Yep.
Which this is my grandmother. She attended it. It fell into some disrepair, but it's been revitalized again.
And where is it?
It's out Sherman Avenue. Yes, out Sherman. And it's at 819 Sherman Parkway.
Okay.
Right? And that was a big deal, that naming for her, of that complex for her. But that's precious little, actually, for who she is and who she was for this community. So I think, it's time for the community to step up to claim her legacy.
Okay, so how we gonna do this? Because I'm with you now. What do you want to do? You want to have a conversation with the mayor?
People say, where's the school named for her? Where
I know.
The thing is that when people say that, I say, her sister was Edna Carnegie, and Edna was a much revered, I can't say beloved because she was tough, but much revered teacher in the New Haven public school.
Was that your mother?
No, that's her sister, my aunt.
Okay,
another aunt. Yes, who did manage to get to college and become a teacher, and taught here in the New Haven public school system. And people know her. She walked down the street, "Hi, Miss Carnegie. Hi, Miss Carnegie," and she has her own amazing legacy. When she came back from college, she went to college on an Episcopal Church scholarship. And it's St. Augustine's down in...
I know St. Aug.
Yes.
Yeah, I love these historically black colleges.
Yes. And when she came back, the New Haven public school system would not give her a job because she was black.
Wow.
And so she spent time...
Now they're desperate for black teachers.
How about that? She cleaned houses for years until one of her friends got her a substitute teaching job. And it turned, by the end of her career, she was, as I said, one of the most revered teachers in the New Haven public school system. If anybody deserves a name school,
she too.
Yes.
Oh,
I tell you, it's a very strong family.
I see. Yes,
it is a very strong family.
Yes,
yes.
So the film
is very important for this history of the civil rights movement.
Yes,
and the legacy of one black woman who had such a major role in that history. argued, first black woman to argue before the Supreme Court.
Which is amazing.
First, argued 10 cases and won 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the one she lost was ultimately reversed.
Wow.
She argued a case that said the prosecution can't just arbitrarily dismiss all black potential jurors.
That's groundbreaking.
And they said, yes, we can. Yes, they can.
No, you
Took
can't.
20 years for them to say,
Wow.
no, I think we were wrong back then.
Wow.
So effectively, she won every single one of the cases.
So the trials of Constance Baker Motley will be held at the New Haven Museum on Sunday, March 3rd at 2 o'clock and Wednesday, March 6th at 5:30. And the events will be presented in partnership with the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society. Admission is free, but the space is limited, so you got to RSVP at newhavenmuseum.org or call 203-562-4183, extension 119. And you're going to be there to give your remarks.
I am. And to hear from the community.
Mm-hmm.
Love to hear what people have, remembrances, etc.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely, 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 lovely. So are you a member of the Historical Society? The African American
Oh, yeah. So
how do you become a member
of the African American Historical Society?
Yeah, because I don't know if they're...
I don't know what their membership I guess you can become a member, but I felt very strongly that they should have a part in this because we have given some of our family papers to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of Mrs. Carnegie's papers are there.
Wow.
And the family papers are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The African American Historical Society, because Mrs. Carnegie was part of the founding of that.
See, I want to know something about them.
Yes,
so
you should bring...
Tell me who they are. Give me their information.
I will do.
I will track them down. And then I want to become a member.
They've merged with all of the other ethnic societies to become one cultural society.
Good.
And it's a great thing to preserve the cultural societies of New Haven.
Okay. It was incorporated in 2004. Oh, so I have some information about the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so look, all these people. I got some good people in this group. Holy cow.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go find them. Oh, it's Southern.
They're housed at Southern. They're housed there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's a good thing.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Constance, it was a joy and a pleasure.
Thank you.
Talking to you.
It was really a pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this film. I'm coming to
Great.
see it.
Wonderful.
I'm looking forward to your remarks. Is her son going to be in attendance?
He's not going to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have you, and that'll be wonderful. And I look for. How long is the film?
The film is about a half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so people can get there, see it, enjoy it, discuss.
Exactly.
Okay. And then we can figure out what else we're going to do to bring her name more prominent into New Haven.
That's right.
Thank you, Ms. Royster. I appreciate you.
Thank you
Happy
very much.
Women's History Month.
That's right.
And happy Black History Month.
That too. Absolutely.
Thank you, Harry. I'm going to play us out.